from the objective. So I really do like that pairing, but it's going to come down to Eclipsar Esports as to how much they feed into that loop. If they're being, reserveful and just aiming to juke around the situation and not feed in to what Brian's going to be looking to achieve here. I want to see some early heals that we are seeing from JXCR there as well, which is going to help a great deal. But so far, Eclipsar Esports on the mid. Now Reese on the left-hand side, though, takes that lane, and that might change things.
Don't want to see a teammate go down early, especially after a tilting loss. Eclipsar Esport, the number 5 seed from EMEA, need to come out swinging. They have to have that confidence to get through this. Ope has been down before. We saw the miraculous run of 2023 with him alongside SK Gaming. A nice pickup there and a good response. All things considered, they still have a small lead, but TQ is clawing their way back here.
It's a good break from Embiid to be able to get that Barley out from behind enemy lines, but it's also going to open him up to a massive amount of scrutiny from these long-range brawls like the Stu and like the Lou. Now, Gugu placing some heal on the zone there from the Gadget, as well as Mavis has super now as well. Nice little heal as well from the Gadget, as Mavis popping the gotcha Gadget to get some additional healing on top of that as well. Eclipsar Esports, though, despite all this, it's very close in terms of the scoreline.
With so many HP on the Frank, and then we've got this healer and Barry. It's kind of a hybrid. I love where Barry's at in the game right now. I think pairing with these brawlers is really valuable. But it's hard to defeat the hard free. The two hypercharges. Joker and Brian come out swinging, and now it's full map control for Team Queso.
Now that is a response. I mean, that was pitch perfect there. But now ECP maybe one of their own as the heals from Gugu come in. Mavis as well gets the hypercharge connection as well, but no kill. Gugu in a good spot here, but JXCR just trying to force their hand as the battle is really occurring on this top left-hand side with a huge smash. JXCR's not actually moving there either, gets stunned regardless. And now TQ take the zone.
TQ need to bring the fight to the mid. They can't afford time away. Colette was able to just sit there, and in a 2v3 situation, sure, Team Queso ended up winning with the numbers, but Mebius was able to grab a lot of time here, and now it's basically tied up.
There is so little in this. OP is just forcing his way on the left-hand side. Brian as well pops a hypercharge from better mobility there. Maybe it's falls. JXCR has the last call. He's going to use it now. But OP stands firm until then. As Reese gets some very important pickup. But Gugu in the last final seconds on the zone. And now Eclipsar Esports should be able to claim this game.
Wonderfully done here. The fans up in arms here. Some fans of ECP. Love to see passion from the audience as well. I think that was a huge deal for ECP. If you come out in this set flat like you did last time, if you drop an 0-2 kind of set and you've got one set on the line to determine your literal postseason, that's a lot. These guys, like we mentioned, had the same break that we did at home. They had about 5 minutes to figure things out, to get their head on a swivel, come back here and take on one of the best teams in South America. Team Queso put up a strong fight. I definitely think they have a chance in the legs with this composition still, but ECP just spent so much time, I think, early on this hot zone that it was hard to kind of come back.
Got to hear the crowd cheer your name. You've got to feel like yourselves again, and that's what ECP did just then. And now, a much better start for sure. So we approach 30% already on the zone. And again, that break from OP to deter away from what JXCR can bring. As Brian gets a lovely pincher and Reese, and that might make some space now for Team Queso to start to bring things back. But OP on the zone still does get a takedown along the way, and that's going to play a lot of pressure into Mavis now as Team Queso take control.
Map control, but certainly not percentage. They've only got about 20 with Brian returning, and I like that calculated decision from Ope to open up these maps. Sure, it's going to make it a little more difficult for him, but it also hurts the Barley. There's a little bit of mix and matching there as the hypercharge ready to go. Ope trying to clap down on RHZ, who just gets away from it. Mebius is the one that has to get the kill. They're slowly building up percentage points at a time. The heals from Barry, the workhorse, now putting in a little extra. The back off there to force Barley away. They're going to have to make a move here, or else this is going to be a runaway for ECP.
There's a lot of missed shots though from ECP. They seem a bit nervous at this stage of the competition now as TQ starts to really get more into themselves. JXL some huge heals now into the mid, goes down himself, but nonetheless keeps Brian and Reese relevant, and now Team Queso starting to close the gap a little bit now. Mavis looking to find an angle onto Reese, but in the right-hand side, OPE is getting absolutely battered. This hypercharge now whittling down to 320 HP. He's going to be juking his way around this, and naturally now the pinch comes in yet again as Team Queso take the lead.
Team Queso roaring their way back here. There's another pickup. 3 red members standing. Mebius has to pop a hypercharge here. He's not even using his super as a result. There he goes. Makes one tag. Gugu coming in for the extra heals, and now ECP with a chance to respond.
Last call into the mid from JXCR, but maybe it's going to find a little bit of space as well as the heals from Gugu as well. OP in a fantastic spot, and Eclipsar Esports is now on 91%. It's one final ditch attempt here from Reese. He's getting good shots, but he's just not got the DPS to do it. And Eclipsar Esports take a set.
Whew. I'm holding my breath if I'm ECP there. Team Queso putting up a good fight. But the fact that ECP won that with a little adversity, especially after getting demolished, what I would say, in that opening set of their last match. Didn't love their draft in set number 2 to take them an early loss against a team that I think many of us were expecting to possibly be the second or third. At least for me, my expectations of this group have entirely changed. But nonetheless, ECP taking care of business. They get one on the board, and now Team Queso have to be on their back foot. If Team Queso lose this, it's not necessarily the end of the road. Obviously, we have a match after this, but ECP, this means a lot here. Now they've got a 1-0 lead. They can't afford to fall 0-2 in this group. Otherwise, it's curtains.
Exactly that. And for me, Eclipsar Esport are that momentum team. They didn't have any momentum in their last matchup versus BC Gaming, but getting that first set, even just the first game, I think that first game was so crucially important. Just displaying to them that they can come back in a really tight scenario and come back on top, secure that set. This is where they want to be, and they can, in my opinion, thrive now off the back of this. Team Queso, though, with a chance to respond, and the question is, will they? Look at Gugu there. I love that. We need to see more of this from ECP. Get the crowd behind them, and once they've got that, it can really just go into their thumbs.
That guy was jazzed up for him. I think you bring up a good point, though. Some teams just operate differently, right? We saw with World Champions A Division last year, their crowd could be roaring, their crowd could not. They just put up a Polish smile at the end of the day. But there are some teams like this, we've seen on the player cam all year long, they rely on that hype. They like gassing each other up and feeling that presence, feeling that success. I think the vibes are a big deal for teams. We've heard about really, really great teams. Tribe Gaming comes to mind. Corey talking about, hey, we just kind of got to crack jokes. We got to smile. We got to enjoy ourselves sometime. And I think finally we're starting to see a little success with Eclipsar Esport. And like you said, alongside that momentum, this is a team that has done well in the EMEA region, all things considered. No, they never came out on top. There's some really good teams in EMEA, though, and they're starting to show that ceiling of what we kind of expect because they were forged in the fire that was that region.
That's probably the highest DPS I've ever seen on the stoop.
Gotta be. 533?
That's ridiculous.
I was too busy blabbing. I didn't even notice. Oh my God.
Absolutely ridiculous. But again, it's about the objective. And the DPS was lacking on the side of Team Queso. I really loved that Barley pick. I love the Stu. I love the comp in general. But for me, the Stu is going to be in a tough matchup. And we mentioned that coming in, right? It was always going to be a tough thing. Had they maybe just got that other brawler, maybe swapped out for something else, it might have gone their way even. And the question is now, being behind, can Team Queso turn this one around? Because it's a very tough spot. Eclipsar Esport, as you can see, they're just springing to life now. They're starting to realize that it's still within their grasp and control to be in charge of their own destiny. On the side of Team Queso, this is their first match of the day. And it's tough to be one sit down when it's your first match of the day.
To touch on the Stu as well, I feel like the draft made a lot of sense. I don't feel like Stu is somebody in that situation against the likes of a Frank. Sure, he's going to be able to land shots. Frank has 15,000 some odd HP. Stu is not going to be able to clear him with 1, 2, maybe 3 full magazines of ammo. I feel like he did the damage. It was really hard to kind of secure those kills unless it was onto the squishier brawlers too. So I think Team Queso brought a lot of good stuff. That's a lot of nitpicking. That's a lot of hindsight. But in the moment, I think we could both say that we liked their draft. The gameplay was really solid. I mean, they were only a few percentage points away from really coming back in either of those and even had a lead at some points too. Crowd getting ready to go as well. Like to see all the young fans out here getting ready for what is going to be a good set to here. But I think for ECP, seeing them with the momentum, both these teams are relatively young as well. We haven't touched on that, but obviously Ope has that Worlds experience. He's seen the tippy top of gameplay. He's been right there. I'm sure he is hungry for success. I know this other side of Team Queso, they were one step away from making it to Worlds last year. It came down to that final match on day number 2. They know what that feels like. They're going to want to try and make a comeback here, give themselves a little bit of a safety net. And I think grabbing that Rico first overall pick, assuming wall break doesn't get in the mix, that's got to be one of the better picks you can have on this map.
I do like it, but it is quite vulnerable to a lot of things that could be coming up next from Eclipsar Esport. The Gale, the Clancy, and the Frank banned out by Eclipsar. The Surge is a really nice ban. I think quite an underrated one, actually. We didn't see enough Surge bans, in my opinion. Larry and Laurie and the Clancy also. But yeah, for me, Rico's always going to be solid here, but it can get overrun. Big tanky comps coming in. Meg is a great addition to the Eclipsar Esport roster here coming in. And, I want to bring up as well, as whilst the drops coming in, I mean, maybe it's last year. Going back to the LCQ last year, he missed out on that opportunity to go to the World Finals. This for him is his redemption arc, potentially.
I think that's what we've kind of talked about with this Group C, I feel like when you look at the team names, people are like, they're a 3 seed from X region, a 5 seed from X region, a 4 seed from X region. These guys all have so many parallels, so much to prove. This is the pinnacle of the sport. They're going for glory. They want to make a world final. Some of them have yet to taste that. Some of them have been so close. They're trying to follow up on a dream. They've been working hard for it all year, and it all comes down to this. I think pairing that with a Buster, you go with this tanky brawler, but I think a big key here is that he can reflect the projectiles of Rico. They've got 2 brawlers that can handle this situation pretty well, and I think for Team Queso, kind of analyzing the bans a little bit, you see the Surge and you see a thrower in Larry and Lori. I think that's intentional. I think Rico is definitely at the top of their list, assuming it wasn't banned on the other end. Another Rosa selection here on center stage, though. We haven't seen Rosa a lot this year. It's really starting to show up now.
Whenever I see Surge banned, I'm thinking they're bringing tanks. You know, that's kind of where my brain goes. And I mean, it's a risky thing to have, ultimately, because Eclipsar Esports have that final pick. And already, you know, we've seen some good success rates with it on this map. I don't mind it at all. But I always just feel like there's that ability to really hard counter when you've got that 3rd and final pick. Team Queso don't seem that bothered by it for now. I'm curious to see what they're going to be pairing with this Rosa, in all honesty. Maybe a tank counter wouldn't be the worst of ideas to take it from the hands, and that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think that was the play. But there's still many a counter to Rosa here that Eclipsar Esports can pick up if they even want to. They might just decide to go on the aggressive.
I know Chester's got a ton of fans at home, but I feel like it took the pro scene maybe a little bit extra to kind of see what he can really do. With that RNG factor in him, when you're playing ladder, it can work out all the time, right, into those random matchups. But when you're in a draft setting, when you have to calculate, what can the other team pick? What do I need to remove from the equation? And you're also relying on drawing good supers out of Chester. Sometimes that can be a little bit risky. On the other end, oh, it wouldn't be the postseason without her. I mean, last year we saw her at time, but Shelly into Rosa, it's a tale as old as time. It's the hardest of hard counters at times as well.
I think, was it you that was backstage with me when we saw STMN take this against Luminosity? I was saying, why are they not bringing Shelly here, actually, as a counter? They went with the Primo. It works really, really nicely.
Sure.
But, like, I mean, for me, there's nothing wrong at all here with bringing the Shelly final pick when you're staring down the gun of a Rosa. I really like this from Eclipsar Esports, and we've seen in the past this year, I think it was OP with that Shelly in the monthly finals, just absolutely dominating with this pick. And I feel like if Team Queso aren't prepared for that, they could have a very, very tough set here.
Yeah, I believe you and Uber mentioned it. This is kind of a different way to solve the equation that Stamina Esports were going with earlier. They ended up picking the El Primo, but in terms of brawler compositions on the other end, obviously Rosa, a similarity there. Rico and Chester are a little bit different, but I think the sentiment is still the same. We want something to shut down Rosa that's aggressive, that's going to blow this map wide open, and that's exactly what OP does here. A second takedown. Now Gugu trying to close the gap. Beebius with a super available, an accidental pass right, a super shot in. What just happened? That's a tough look for Team Queso.
A really tough situation, but you really don't want to be passing the ball there, do you, really? And Eclipsar Esports took full advantage of that, but they did position themselves accordingly to ensure there was less of an opportunity for Team Queso to get that ball clear. But that's a very early start. And now ACP can just kind of take their time with this. They can go on the aggressive if they choose to, but now the map's opened up by OPE. JXCR's not going to really be able to do much at all if OP stays on him.
And that's something we didn't mention, too. I mentioned right as Rico got picked. Got to watch out for the wall break. And now we've got a hard counter into the Rosa, who's dominating this right-hand lane. Rico has less walls to bounce off of. And it's just a lone Brian out here. They're fending for their lives here early.
Again, OP is so dangerous on the Shelly pick. He's just going to stay on JXCR this entire time. And everywhere he goes, he will be the shadow. Reese has got the hypercharge, and we know how effective that can be with this Rico pick. But Team Queso are on the back lines here. Hypercharge popped from both JXCR and the Rico there, but not going to find the most amount of value from it. Maybe this is there, getting some good swipes in. Gugu's healing up along the way, and this ball is going to trickle in. Eclipsar Esports now on match point.
This group's getting spicy. If we see ECP win that, keep in mind, if we get to a scenario where things turn out to be 1-1s across the board, tiebreakers come into play, sets one come into play, every single game matters, especially in a group stage. We saw that the World Finals didn't quite come into the mix, but this might be our real opportunity here. VCP win this match number 3 becomes even more insane. The stakes are growing higher and higher. Team Queso have to find a way to turn this around.
A much better start from Queso. That's a very important takedown from Maybe It's There. It really is. He might be able to take the ball and run with this. Reese has the super, though. He's using it down the map there as well, but it's going to be leaving things wide open. A bit of a miss, to be honest, there from Team Queso.
Another blown coverage, and it's going to lead to a scoring opportunity for ECP. Supers available for the other end. A little blow up. Brian getting a good draw from the Mad Hatter, and now being pulled in. Joker can't do a thing about it. Reese trying to move down this left-hand lane, but it's Ope staring at it with a shotgun. Great response, though. Will survive with 200, dropping another one. Finally, Mebius takes care of business, but he is knocked out of mech.
Well, a difficult position now for Team Queso. Honestly, a good slow from JXCR, but where's the follow-up? That's the thing. Mavis is vulnerable as well. He's not even in mech, and there was nothing. It was just a waste of a gadget, ready for me. Now back in mech, and JXCR low is probably going to go down here with a swipe, and he does. Leaving things wide open. Gugus making plays off the gadget as well. He's going to connect onto Reese and the ball to the right-hand side, and Eclipsar Esport have done it, and they will survive on.
This just got a whole lot more interesting. Obviously, things would have been easy if ECP ended up falling short. They're 0-2. They're out of the equation. It's just a battle for seeding. Now it's a battle to make it. If you go 1-1 here, it's going to come down to tiebreakers. This could get crazy, Arc.
This has just been blown wide open against the odds. Eclipsar Esport behind, swept, stampled by BC Gaming, but now a glimmer of hope remains.
I like it.
It's like stomped and
Trampled and
combined.
yeah, I like that. Stampled. Okay, well,